Coming up on this edition of Viral, man, President Trump leads a crusade toward him being a sore loser or losing the 2020 general election as he sent a bunch of rioters that did some disgusting, disturbing, and outrageous events that many people thought that was despicable and evil. We'll have this and more. It's all new Viral. Capitol hostile takeover starts right now.
Hello everyone, welcome to this special edition of Viral. I'm your host as always, Kendrick here. We're here to talk about the Capitol hostile takeover. First things first, joining the conversation using the hashtag ViralYoungConnect. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe is caring. Tell a friend, hit the subscribe button. Now, many of you know that the uneventful events of this past week where, the pro-Trump rioters raided the U.S. Capitol building and trying to make a stance on their own version of their democracy. It dimmed the light on America as not being the beacon of hope that America could be and should be. It doesn't represent what America stands for what you saw this past week. It was disgusting, it was sick, it was disturbing, it was unfamiliar, it was unacceptable. And the actions of those men and women who went out there due to the agitation of President Donald J. Trump to get something out his chest to say that he lost the election. Yes, you lost the election. You lost it in a fair and just way. No other way. And he wanted to turn that pain, that suffering into what we saw, where all those pro-Trump protesters marched down to the Capitol building and raided, and it could have been worse than it already was. Let's look back to the uneventful events that had happened with our own news affiliates with this.
Today, the House Appropriations and Administration Committees, which both have oversight of the Capitol Police, say they intend to investigate the riots, and multiple congressional aides said heads should roll at the Capitol over the security failures. U.S. Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund has already resigned. That happened yesterday after criticism over his apparent lack of preparedness to deal with Wednesday's violent mob. A multi-state search is underway for the men and women who committed federal crimes at the U.S. Capitol when it was taken over by the angry mob. The FBI released these photos, working to track down all the rioters involved. We now know the names of several Florida men who have been identified or tied to the federal investigation. News4Jax reporter Janice Harris is researching who each of these Trump supporters are.
That's right, Joy. An FBI Washington, D.C. office said its office and their 56 field offices are working around the clock searching for anyone that committed crimes at the U.S. Capitol Wednesday, saying if you left D.C., they can find you and will come knocking on your door. Hundreds of FBI agents and investigators across the country are looking for the men and women who breached and damaged the United States Capitol. This just one day after releasing photos of the rioters they are looking for. 6 Florida men have been linked to the riots at the U.S. Capitol. 4 of them already arrested.
Anything happens, we get arrested or killed, just know, man, I love y'all, and I did what I believed in it.
This is Michael Presidio of Summerfield. He's facing a federal charge of unlawful entry into the U.S. Capitol. Douglas Sweet, John Anderson, and Matthew Council are also facing an unlawful entry federal charge. Another person identified, Andrew Williams, a Sanford firefighter, in a photo taken in the foyer of the Capitol, pointing at a sign that reads, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. Williams has not been charged, but has been identified by multiple people, and the Sanford Fire Department confirmed. An investigation has been launched. We are aware and the firefighter is employed by the Sanford Fire Department. The Sanford Fire Department has begun an administrative investigation into the information. News4Jax crime and safety expert Ken Jefferson says, though people have gone home, the investigation will not be delayed. Social media is playing a very critical role in locating some of these people.
Social media in this regard is very, very helpful. You know, when people do stupid things, they like to post it and brag about it and show pictures and this, that, and the other. And the law enforcement officials are sitting back laughing with gratitude that they're doing that because they're giving them all the evidence that they need.
A sixth Florida man has been identified as Adam Christian Johnson of Parrish. He's seen carrying Speaker of the House podium through the Capitol Rotunda. No charges have been confirmed against him. This is just a handful of the dozens of people that the FBI is investigating.
The FBI is on the case. Federal officials are on the case, on these cases, and they will find you. They will find you.
Other men have been arrested with charges.
President Trump waking up without his favorite megaphone.
Let me ask you, should I keep the Twitter going or not? Keep it going?
Twitter permanently banning the commander-in-chief's personal account with 88 million followers after an initial 12-hour lockout following Wednesday's riots at the U.S. Capitol. The company, run by Jack Dorsey, saying, after close review of recent tweets from the real Donald Trump account and the context around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence. With his legion of tweets simply gone, President Trump moved quickly to post from the official POTUS account, attacking Twitter, Democrats, and the radical left. Those tweets taken down within minutes. Twitter's actions sparking celebration and outrage. Senator Joe Manchin thanking Twitter, and Senator Mark Warner calling it an overdue step. But the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., was furious, sounding off, tweeting, "Free speech no longer exists in America." Trump's former UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, saying, "This is what happens in China, not our country."
How much of a violation is this of free speech?
Yeah. Well, as you know, the First Amendment doesn't apply to private companies. This is like a storefront saying, hey, I don't really want somebody saying that thing in my business.
The ban triggered in part by staffers inside Twitter, pressuring executives to delete the president's account. One telling NBC News, "A lot of us are so happy and so proud to work for a company that did the right thing."
How much of a difference does banning the president on Twitter really make at this stage in the game?
It should make an enormous difference. He was a primary conduit for disinformation on Twitter, and now that's gone.
Now, as expected, the official POTUS
charges tonight, but as for these two men, they say they were just outside at the wrong time.
Police arrested at least 7 Michigan residents after chaos erupted at the U.S. Capitol Wednesday. A 25-year-old man was arrested for carrying a pistol without a license, possession of a large-capacity ammunition feeding device, and possession of unregistered ammunition. Washington, D.C. police also arrested a 64-year-old man from Michigan for unlawful entry and curfew violation. The rest of the arrests were for violating the 6 p.m. curfew.
We were only about 150 feet from the hotel and said, "Oh, sorry, we'll go back." And it was too late. Unfortunately, we were made examples of, thinking we were some of that rowdy crowd.
Matthew Staley from Commerce Township and Sean Floyd from Redford say they got arrested around 8:45 Wednesday night after they left their hotel to try to get something to eat. They told the 7 investigators they traveled to D.C. to peacefully protest, not to incite violence.
I have daughters, I have kids, and this country is not upholding the law, the Constitution, and it's being trampled on. So we came up yesterday to stand up for our rights here in this country that aren't being upheld. We're here for the rights of all Americans. There's no racial prejudice here. It's all, people that love and fear God, and we're here for human rights for the whole world, not just America, but just the whole world. But, the corruption is real.
Staley and Floyd say they were held overnight in a lockup facility and early this morning paid a $25 ticket so they could return to Michigan. They say they did not join in the breach of the Capitol building and don't agree with the violence that occurred.
I do believe that patriots are upset, and I think they want to be heard. I think they think it's an unfair election, and I think going to the Capitol building and showing presence was what the intention was. I think the event provocateurs or instigators or agitators were the ones that decided to break things and enter buildings that they shouldn't have been entering. And I'm disgusted by it, as I think are most Americans.
Now, both of these local men told
the mob, part of a huge crowd that attended a Trump rally, had attended that rally. They stormed the Capitol, overwhelming police and getting inside the building. One of those, now facing federal charges, is the founder of the Proud Boys Hawaii chapter. Gina Mangieri has...
The FBI arrested Nick Ox at the Honolulu airport Thursday evening when he got back from Washington, D.C. Among the throngs of people who flooded the Capitol Wednesday was Proud Boys Hawaii founder Nick Ox, according to his own Twitter photo, where he posted, "Hello from the Capitol, LOL." In a criminal complaint and warrant for Ox arrest, a federal agent cited the Twitter post. Other images of Ox seen on national television, and Ox's own interview with CNN talking about being in the Capitol. Ox founded the Hawaii chapter of Proud Boys, which the FBI says has been, quote, calling for action over false claims that President Trump lost the election due to widespread voter fraud.
They clearly need to go after the high-profile cases. So the people that got their faces all over the internet, they're the first ones to go down. Who would ever guess that Hawaii would be involved in the coverage of a far-right insurrection?
The federal agent wrote in his affidavit that he positively identified Ox by matching social media images to Ox's 2020 Republican Party candidate photo from when Ox ran for Hawaii State House District 22. Ox lost that election.
I think the Hawaii Republican Party, like many state Republican parties, are going to have to make a decision relatively soon whether or not they are still Trumplicans, whether or not they are still Donald Trump's Republican Party, as his son refers to it.
The Hawaii Republican Party did not yet respond to questions about Ox arrest and GOP affiliation, but the party chair told KHON2 this the day of the riot.
There's more that unites us than divides us. We ask for everyone to be safe and to remember that, that we're all Americans first, and to make sure that we treat each other with respect even while we can maintain our differences.
We have not received responses to phone and email messages requesting comment from Ox or an attorney on his behalf. The affidavit in the criminal complaint quotes Ox as telling CNN, "We didn't have to break in. I just walked in and filmed," and that he was, quote, working as a professional journalist. Ox's alleged offense on the criminal complaint is unlawful entry into restricted buildings or grounds. Punishment can result in a year in prison, but rises to a maximum of 10 years if injuries or weapons are involved. Ox's first court hearing is set for Monday in Honolulu, and a federal filing asks for Ox to be ordered to make an initial appearance in Washington, D.C.'s federal district court in 2 to 3 weeks. The motion says the government does not intend to ask for defendant Ox to be detained. Gina Mangieri, KHON2 News, working for Hawaii.
And the whole thing on social media in some cases. Ken Molesina heard from one of them today. He is joining us now with her message and the potential legal troubles that participants could now face.
Doug, I should begin by telling you the Justice Department identified the first 13 people who are now facing charges. There are 4 of them on that list that were not identified by state, so we're still trying to figure out who those are, if in fact they might be Texans or not. However, there are a few other Texans, including 2 from our area, who clearly participated and are now waiting to see if they too will be charged.
Jenna Ryan of Frisco, a real estate broker and talk show host, posted among other pictures this one outside the Capitol. The caption reads, "Window at the Capitol, and if the news doesn't stop lying about us, we're going to come after their studios next." I reached out to Ryan about the backlash she's receiving now, and she responded in a statement saying, "It was a peaceful protest. We exercised our right to free speech and peaceful protest. There was no violence. I did not break any window. I just posed by the window because I was taking photos all over D.C. all day. I did not go into the Capitol." Then there was attorney Paul Davis from Westlake, who's now been fired from his job with Goosehead Insurance for his role.
We did break down the Nancy Pelosi's office door.
That's Midland resident and once mayoral candidate Jenny Cudd.
Certainly breaking into the Capitol, that's a chargeable offense perhaps in a number of ways. That could be a simple trespass versus a federal crime for doing some of the things that they did.
SMU law professor Eric Cedillo says as they are identified, all of the participants who stormed the Capitol could face very serious charges, not just because of what they did, but also because a federal police officer died as a result of the chaos.
I think when the police officer passed away, that changed everything. It was a game changer in terms of the prosecutions and just a level of scrutiny that they're going to take.
He did say each individual's role will be looked at, and their defense will be determined by how much proof is provided of their actions.
And it'll depend on the evidence that is brought to bear. Simply having, your picture taken out in front of the Capitol may not be sufficient to maintain that you broke into the Capitol. But if you crossed a barrier or your picture's on the other side of a barrier that you shouldn't have crossed, then that might be problematic for them.
Well, Jenna Ryan from Frisco released a second statement late this afternoon. That one read in part, quote, "I do not condone the violence that occurred on January 6, 2020, and I am truly heartbroken for the people that have lost their lives." You know, Doug, you spoke to different legal experts here throughout the day, and all of them say that...
From the Capitol. The mass crushing a police officer between a riot shield and a metal door. Bleeding and screaming for help. As police in riot gear try to hold the line, the mob keeps pushing, one of them yelling out, "Grab their damn shields." Other videos showing Trump supporters spraying chemicals and beating the police with bats and metal pipes. The images and the fallout from Wednesday's insurrection continues to reverberate as the country's leaders and law enforcement look to hold those responsible, including President Trump, accountable.
I've been saying for well over a year, he is not fit to serve. He is not fit to serve. He's one of the most incompetent presidents in the history of the United States of America.
At the White House, the president more isolated than ever, both personally and now offline. In a stunning decision, Twitter banning the president permanently, quote, due to the risk of further incitement of violence. The president, who had over 88 million followers, is a prolific tweeter, using the social media platform to announce policies as well as to attack those he disagreed with.
This hits the president where it hurts probably the most. I mean, Twitter is the instrument that fueled his rise to power. It is the instrument that has caused some of the biggest problems for this White House over the past 4 years, but it's the way the president goes directly to his supporters.
Yesterday, Trump releasing this video on Twitter, where he seemed to denounce the events at the Capitol.
I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem.
The president released that video under enormous pressure from Republicans, from some of his own staff members, even from members of his family, but he is not happy with it. This was the video where he, for the first time, condemned the violence and said he would work towards an orderly transition, and now I'm told the president regrets saying those things.
In what may be his last tweet from his @RealDonaldTrump account, President Trump announced that he will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th.
One of the few things he and I have ever agreed on. It's a good thing I'm not showing up.
Even his bitter opponent, Hillary Clinton, attended President Trump's inauguration 4 years ago. She wrote that she felt a responsibility to be there, to demonstrate the peaceful transfer of power.
I don't think anybody really thought Trump was going to go to Joe Biden's inauguration. It just never seemed plausible. Now he's made what was obvious official, and it's an incredible break with precedent.
The president tried to tweet from the official @POTUS account, but Twitter deleted them, saying in a statement to ABC News, using another account to try to evade a suspension is against our rules. Even though there are only 12 days before the Biden administration takes office, there are increasing calls for the president to resign. And Democrats in the House of Representatives have drafted a 4-page impeachment resolution for incitement of insurrection, charging Trump with willfully inciting violence against the government by urging his followers to march to the Capitol. Today, federal authorities announcing arrest of those who took part in the assault on the Capitol.
I'll put a quarter on for death.
Richard Barnett, the man with his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk, arrested in Little Rock, Arkansas, facing multiple charges. AFP photographer Saul Loeb took this now infamous picture of Barnett.
I found Richard Barnett sitting at a staff member's desk in her office with his feet up, just making himself at home. It just sort of like he owned the place, and rifling through the mail on the desk. And, it's just sort of a jarring sight.
Taking this series of photos to illustrate the contrast between Barnett and Pelosi.
Here you have Nancy Pelosi, one of the highest members of the U.S. government, in this theoretically highly secure location, in this highly secure building, and these people are just basically doing whatever they want. and looking whatever they want.
Also arrested, Lonnie Kaufman, who authorities say brought these 11 Molotov cocktails along with handguns and an M4 carbine assault rifle like this one to the Capitol.
For most of those members of the mob who are charged, you're going to see charges ranging from weapons violations to being on restricted government property to using violence or force to break onto the Capitol grounds.
Authorities investigating the death of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, the possibility he may have been struck with a fire extinguisher. The flag over the Capitol flying at half-staff in his honor.
Investigating how that Capitol Police officer died is going to be an A1 priority for federal investigators. They're going to want to know how it happened, who is responsible for it, and then what charges are appropriate.
In the morning before the mob set siege to the Capitol, Trump and his family were watching the rally backstage.
Hi, Ivanka!
In this since-removed video from the president's son, Don Jr.'s Facebook account, his girlfriend Kimberly offering what was just the first of many calls to action.
Yes, have the courage to do the right thing. Fight!
That mood was festive, even though so many of those Trump supporters believe the president was defrauded out of the November election. They were there to support him. They were there to say, we love you, we're here for you.
On stage, speaking to a sea of followers, the president's family and allies riled up the crowd.
If you're gonna be the zero and not the hero, we're coming for you.
Let's have trial by combat.
Trump spoke for an hour.
We will not take it anymore.
Urging his followers to take action.
Here, we're gonna walk down to the Capitol because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength.
Once they got their marching orders for the president, they marched down Constitution Avenue. And as we got closer to the Capitol, things got to a fever pitch point. It got to a point where I just knew things were going to get out of control pretty quickly.
From the beginning of his presidency until his final days, President Trump has not only repeatedly failed to call out the kinds of hate groups that besieged the Capitol this week, but has used dangerous rhetoric to stoke the flames of hate. After white supremacists held a rally in Charlottesville, Virginia that led to a woman's death, he equivocated.
They showed up at Charlottesville to protest the and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
And during the 2020 presidential debate, he used language that foreshadowed Wednesday's events.
You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
White
supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by.
Many point to the president's words as the match that lit the flame at Wednesday's rally.
So I really think what's so worrying is we are on the precipice of something quite dark because people are literally, they distrust the system.
Jonathan Greenblatt is the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, a nonprofit organization that tracks far-right extremists. In 2019, we visited their office where they monitor hate groups.
So this is our heat map, which means hate, extremism, anti-Semitism, and terror. So it allows us to track in real time hate crimes wherever they're happening across the country.
Well, if this is an indication of hate crimes, we're in a bad place right now. So as the ADL sees it, Donald Trump perhaps didn't facilitate what happened on Wednesday, but you believe he enabled it.
White supremacy existed before Donald Trump, and it will persist after Donald Trump. It's not going to go away on January the 20th. However, it's clear that he has amplified and incited far-right extremism. And there have been lots of signs along the way.
And some of those far-right extremists were seen inside the Capitol, wearing shirts bearing slogans praising the Holocaust.
This was one of the first times I have seen so vividly displayed the normalization of extremism. Yes, there were hardcore white supremacists who were leading the charge into the building, assaulting police officers, vandalizing the facility. But there were also hundreds of ordinary people who followed them. They were ordinary Americans who believe in the president and his message. They are ripe for radicalization.
If this is a Trump-led movement, where do all these people go after January 20th?
This existed before Trump and it will exist after Trump. But make no mistake, other leaders will emerge. Other people will step forward. This isn't going to go away anytime soon.
See right there, a lot of the so-called protesters, some of them call it was domestic terrorism, some call it just plain out un-American. And a lot of people were sad and a lot of people were mad and angry. And it was so surreal seeing that the U.S. Capitol, the place, the people's house, where people vote their representatives to make the smart decisions for them, being raided, being ransacked by a couple of un-American people, domestic terrorist people that really had their own best interests at heart due to the fact of the U.S. president who's going to be leaving in a couple of days. Well, we know that Trump air-tagged this thing, and he even intensified it when even people was asking him to, hey, stop the madness, stop the chaos, diffuse it. He refused until he had to come out. And we're not going to show it, but it's out there and stuff. It was that. Let's hear what you people had to say about this whole incident where it happened when the U.S. Capitol was raided. This.
From when the pro-Trump rioters stormed our Capitol building today. Here's a rioter sitting at the desk of Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. I don't have any words for this one. So classy. But like, where's the masks and social... never mind. Not gonna lie, this one's kind of sick and would look dope in a movie, but like if he was saving the day, but instead he's breaching the floor of Congress. Remember in summer 2020 when Trump said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts? Well, where was that same energy when this picture was taken? Remember when they were mad because we removed statues of slave owners? Well, isn't this defaming a statue? Security trying to protect our Congress. And my personal favorite, the same people that say, build the wall.
Breaking news. So, you know that there is a Trump rally going on in D.C. Trump riled up his crowd and told them, get on down there to the Capitol. These people have stormed the Capitol, and so much so that we're starting to get the reports of the police telling the people inside the Capitol, the senators and congressmen and reporters, like, stay away from windows and all of that. Baby, next thing you know, the Secret Service had came in and ushered Mike Pence away. Now, let me say this. I'm all down for protest. But y'all out there protesting whether you hear this or not, baby, the Secret Service ain't gonna play with you. The Capitol Police, okay, in D.C., deals with this kind of stuff, right? That protests happen, they have to, deal with crowds and stuff like that. Baby, the Secret Service protecting the Vice President of the United States, whether we rock with him like that or not, is not going to play. So I would caution y'all, baby, protest and back up, because I don't think it's gonna be real nice if the Secret Service got to... Oh my gosh. Okay, guys.
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Yeah. So, right. So, you might have to come in and print that off because I don't believe we have any of this available. We are open until 2 o'clock today, so we got 30 minutes. All right. Apparently, they used to have residential leases just like to sell to people. We did no problem. Yeah? Yes. Okay. Technically, we can ask William about it because it's a catch-22. When it comes to legal documents, we're not supposed to be doing legal advice, but if it's selling leases, you kind of laying it out to the public. So I guess it depends on which library, but Birmingham have short and long leases available. Maybe we should do that. People are calling for it. She said she got one from her last year. Now it's time for her to renew, so she doesn't have. So they might do something from Birmingham. So So we have another thing to ask when you get back. Is he coming back today? I think so. I think he's in the weekend. Might be.
I remember the first day we came here, Mr. Darby was still out of state. It was just me and Jenna huddled around our space heater. Because we couldn't set up any of the computers. I mean, it took, and it was so cold in here. It was freezing. It wasn't getting, that was terrible. So me and her huddled around the space heater. We were able to set up one computer, not this one. No, he wants to come in and fix it.
Real? Really? Honestly? I don't even know how to feel about this. It's just like total chaos. And it's ridiculous too. Okay, like for
As you see right there, a lot of you were shamed to be American. A lot of you were you didn't think it was going to happen. And some of you pointed out, well, if it was Black Lives Matter in it, it would have been a bloody massacre. It would be. It's just my personal opinion on it is we live in America. We live in the United States of America. The United States of America is divided. Whether you're liberal or conservative or far left or far right, black, white, all those minorities and stuff. And we live in this time and age that a lot of people kind of bash upon it, that what they see their versions of America should be and would be. And it's deteriorating because people are not looking at the far scope, not looking at the landscape of America, the beacon of hope that America is, that you're represented on how you is and your character, regardless of your creed, your color, your religion, your race. America is built on you. And a lot of people felt like America was built upon them because of those past week's actions and stuff, where it happened. But we're not going to showcase those. We're not going to put a spotlight on them because we don't want to deem to give them more a profile and a platform. This is Viral. It's an equal platform, and we want to talk about it all and put it out on the table. We're not going to showcase those domestic terrorism that infiltrated and tried to raid the Capitol, because innocent people could have been killed. Innocent people. It's sad that a lot of people died because of one man's own actions and stuff, because he didn't feel like he didn't win the election on his own accord. And he must have to get over it, because if you lose, you win one, you fight another day. But it wasn't like this, and it shouldn't have been like this at all. So it's sad, and you can't believe it. You can't cope around it, but it is what it is. All right, thank you all for watching this edition of our special edition of our. Thank you all. We'll see you next time for another edition of our.